Welcome into the first live draft coverage of the Fantasy Pros Championship here in the FFPC. The FFPC YouTube channel, the FFPC Twitter account, the FFPC Facebook, wherever you're watching, we're very thankful that you're doing so. I am Eric Balkman from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the Better Sports Network's High Stakes Fantasy Football Show. Follow me on Twitter at Eric Balkman. I am joined by at Dave Terp on Twitter. Dave Terpoli drafting from the 8 spot tonight. We're going to get his thoughts on what he's going to do in the first round, or potentially what he did in the first round by the time I get him. And FFPC Media Coordinator Aiden LaCorey. Follow him on Twitter at Aiden LaCorey. Joining me for live draft coverage of this Fantasy Pros Championship, when these 12 teams will take their shot at a $1 million grand prize. A reminder, go to myffpc.com. There's 2 chances you have to become a millionaire this year. The Fantasy Pros Championship, just $350 to join, or you could join the FFPC main event at myffpc.com. $1 million going to the grand prize, or going to the grand prize winner there this year. More than $6 million at stake in both prize pools. And if you want to participate in the FFPC best ball tournaments, we got a couple of them going on, including one that is giving away a $200,000 grand prize, and another one only costs $35 to get in, and you can win $50,000 in that one as well. Closed 12-team drafts over at myffpc.com, and dynasty leagues, more than 1,300 of them going. We have never had a dynasty league fold. So you can join in for $100, $5,000, anywhere in between as far as your price point goes. We have a league for you at myffpc.com. Aiden, Terp, welcome in, guys. Terp, you're on the clock right now, and we'll go through the first round in a little bit. 2 running backs off the board, 4 receivers, and Travis Kelce. What are you thinking here at the 108, my friend?
I talked to Aiden yesterday about, just a little plan on how this would go, and we talked about 2 players, and one of the 2 players were there. It was either Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill. Decision was pretty easy. Very happy with the selection. Let's keep it moving.
Team 6, who will be remain nameless, took Cooper Kupp. Terp gets Tyreek Hill at the 108 tonight. Jamar Chase is the first pick tonight at the 101. Christian McCaffrey. Justin Jefferson falls to the 103 tonight, followed by Bijan Robinson at the 104. The second running back off the board was the first rookie running back drafted in the 2023 NFL draft. He goes at the 104. Travis Kelce is the first tight end drafted, followed by Kupp. Team 7 takes Stephon Diggs. Terp is going to go with Tyreek Hill to start off things. Austin Eckler, followed by CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown going at the 112 tonight. Terp, what do you make of Amon-Ra St. Brown making his way into the first round?
I think that's kind of where he belongs. I mean, especially early in the season, he's going to get peppered with targets. So there's no real downside of taking him, especially if Lamb doesn't make it, A.J. Brown doesn't make it. I think he's a great pick.
Aiden, as I bring you in right now, what do you make of Team 12? And I don't know how many teams have done this so far this year, but he ended up going with, or he or she, I should say, ended up going with a couple of receivers there, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Garrett Wilson, a guy that Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing to this year. Aaron Rodgers, who said Wilson could be the best receiver in football this season. What do you make of the wide receiver start from Team 12?
I feel like that's start is me and Terp talk about whenever I do these live shows, fantasy Twitter, like that is a start that fantasy Twitter is going to be drooling over. Mm-hmm. I completely agree with Terp. Like seemingly everyone, I'm in on the Lions and the offensive upside. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. The target share he's going to get. Obviously, Jameson Williams suspension stinks for fantasy owners, but does help Amon-Ra. And I love Garrett Wilson. I mean, look at what he does. I just have to laugh because Terp. We were
instant seconds. It didn't even take 3 seconds for that.
Tony Pollard's on the board in the second. Terp's taking him.
He's gone.
But my last thought on Garrett Wilson. Overall, last thought on Garrett Wilson is, we always look what he did last year with no quarterbacks, and now he's getting Aaron Rodgers. Even if it's the Aaron Rodgers we saw last year, who's a little bit on the down slope of his career, still probably better than any quarterback by a mile that the Jets threw out there last year. So I'm going to Garrett Wilson, but Tony Pollard. The stage is yours to hype Tony Pollard up even more than you already have.
Last year I said it when Ezekiel Elliott's gone, running back 1 overall. I stand by the statement. I've seen a little, chatter on Twitter about running back 1 overall this week. So you don't ever have to. If Tony Pollard's on the board in the second round of my drafts, he's getting taken 90, especially in these bigger leagues. Best ball will mix up exposure a little bit, but it's just there's too much upside. I mean, all the guys that Barkley, Taylor, Eckler, they're all quality picks. There's no downside to any of them. whether you like him or not. But Pollard just to me has running back one upside, especially in that offense. He's the only guy right now. There's really nobody out there that really fears me, So Tony Pollard is a slam dunk for me. And running backs, it looks like Ramondre Stevenson just going. They're going to start getting pushed up a little bit. So far the draft's going really well. We talked about it yesterday. Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill. I would prefer Cooper Kupp, but I'm happy with Tyreek Hill. And then if Tony Pollard was there in the second round, it was an automatic pick.
Terp made Tony Pollard the 5th running back off the board. He normally goes running back 7 at the 207. He goes tonight to Terp at the 205. So not a really big stretch there. Terp, just for the listeners and the viewers who paid attention last year to you, I mean, you were all aboard Travis Etienne in the 3rd round. You felt very strong about that. How do you feel more strong about Tony Pollard in the mid-2nd this year than you did with Travis Etienne in the 3rd last year, or is it about the same?
I do, because last year you saw everything from Tony Pollard. Etienne, he showed flashes, but it wasn't all there. I mean, he didn't really, catch a lot of passes as much as people thought he would be coming out of Clemson with Trevor Lawrence. They brought in Tank Bigsby, that I keep hearing about, which, I'm still an Etienne guy, but I'm not really worried about Tank Bigsby. But Pollard, to me, just Malik Davis, Ronald Jones, a dusty Ezekiel Elliott if they bring him back. I just think the only downside of him is the injury potential, but that's the downside for everybody. In that offense, he's going to be the guy. He's as close to a sure thing, in my opinion, there is in a draft right now.
Aiden, Jonathan Taylor is going off the board oftentimes within the first couple of picks overall. He has been the 101 before. He falls to the 202 tonight. He is normally at 203, running back 5, so it seems about right. Running back 4 at the 202 tonight. Are FFPC drafters undervaluing Jonathan Taylor, or is he dropping to an appropriate spot now? After what he showed us on tape last year?
I think he's dropping to an appropriate spot. I mean, it's interesting. I think 2 guys in this 2nd round whose ADPs are settling right where they should be, which was Ramondre Stevenson. I thought was too low, and I understand maybe the risk of who the Patriots sign or draft, and they didn't, so it's rightfully rising into the mid-2nd. And Jonathan Taylor, I think, opened up. You look at, I know it's a different format, but never too early best ball, but even a lot of these early FantasyPros Championship drafts, like right when the contest opened, you're looking at Jonathan Taylor sometimes as mid-1st almost consistently. And now, as you said, he's kind of falling more into this early 2nd, late 1st, which I think there's a lot of concerns there with the Colts offense. Who knows what Anthony Richardson's going to take out? I mean, the Shane Steichen, Terp knows all too well how Jalen Hurts would just steal touchdowns in the red zone, steal rushes. Taylor was banged up last year. I wasn't a Jonathan Taylor guy. I've never been a Jonathan Taylor guy. So you're also asking the wrong person. I've never been on him, really bought in. But I think the ADP is settling. If anything, I would drop it. Like I'm taking Ramondre and Tony Pollard ahead of him. And I'm probably on the drastic side of that. But I as you said, I think it's settling in right where it should be.
Jonathan Taylor, if he would have went to Kentucky, perhaps Aiden would like him a little bit better. That is not the case, as he went to my UW Wisconsin Badgers. Okay, moving on, guys. Wilson 201, Taylor 202. Devontae Adams gets paired with CeeDee Lamb at the 203 for Team 10. Team 9 goes running back Eckler and Barkley. Obviously, we know Terp took Pollard. Devontae Smith for a couple of teams here that go receiver to start off. Team 7 goes Stephon Diggs, Devontae Smith. Team 6 goes Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, followed by what Terp said. Team 5 goes with Kelsey in the 1st round, Ramondre Stevenson in the 2nd. Nick Chubb falls to 209 tonight as he gets paired with Bijan Robinson for Team 4. Mark Andrews is the 2nd tight end off the board at the 210. Josh Jacobs to the 211 and Najee Harris to the 212 tonight. Terp, we'll fast forward to your pick. You are on the clock right now. 3 quarterbacks off the board, 14 receivers, 11 running backs, and the 4th tight end is still out there. What are you thinking here, man?
I'm very surprised at the running back run that's going on. As of right now, I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs, which might come as a surprise. But I just feel like in this format, they've hyped him up so much in the preseason. I just think with him and Pollard, I pretty much can stop on running backs for a little bit. So, yeah, I'm just going to make that as simple as possible. Take him. The receivers to me are all the same right here. There's none that stand out. Hopefully by my next pick, one will stand out, which I know Aiden knows who it is, but we'll see if he makes it all the way back.
Well, Terp, let me ask you here, because you take Jahmyr Gibbs. He normally goes running back 13 at the 209. You get him as running back 12 at the 308, so not a big reach there. Can you tell us your thought process on why you wanted to go with Gibbs over a guy, and if he was healthy starting the season, might have been the 101 this year in the New York Jets rusher, Breece Hall?
I just have a lot of questions about him. Is he going to come back 100%? That team needs to win now. I mean, they could – rush him back, which we've seen over the past. It's not usually a recipe for success. So it's definitely a worry. Breece Hall is not somebody I'm extremely high on this year. He could be a league winner at the end, but, you got to get to the end first. And I just feel like Gibbs in that offense, the explosive, you saw last year, especially without Jameson Williams for the first 6 weeks. I mean, they're going to try to get Gibbs the ball as much as possible. I hope it doesn't turn into a DeAndre Swift thing. That's my fear, but I would think a coaching staff and an organization is going to take a running back, in the top 15 and then not use him right away. So I'm excited with the pick. I think he's definitely has monster potential in the offense. So we'll see.
Tyreek Hill, Tony Pollard, Jahmyr Gibbs are Terp's first 3 picks tonight from the 8 spot here in this Fantasy Pros Championship draft that you are watching live on the FFPC social media channels. Let's take you through round 3. Team 1 off to a potential rainbow start here with TJ Hawkinson as the third tight end off the board at the 301. Jalen Hurts is going to be the first quarterback drafted tonight at the 302 by Team 2 to go with McCaffrey and Jacobs. Derrick Henry is the first running back drafted by Team 3 tonight. Chris Olave and T. Higgins to Team 4 and 5, respectively, at the 304 and 305. A couple of quarterbacks after that. Patrick Mahomes to Team 6. Josh Allen goes off the board to Team 7. So Team 6 and Team 7, 2 receivers and a quarterback. Both of them did that.
I would have taken Patrick Mahomes if he would have fell.
Instead of Jahmyr Gibbs. If they were both out there, you would have taken Mahomes. Okay.
Josh Allen, no. Patrick Mahomes, yes.
And Jalen Hurts, obviously, yes, right?
1,000% would even be a second.
Just making sure. The only team to start off with 3 straight running backs to start tonight is Team 9. Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, and now Travis Etienne at the 309. Breece Hall, who we just talked about, he goes off the board 2 picks after Terp had a shot at him, decided to pass on him. He goes at the 310. DK Metcalf, the second receiver drafted by Team 11, and Team 12 is working on, and again, he's chiming in on the YouTube chat. I'm not going to expose him if he doesn't want me to. He has told me that it is a he drafting a Team 12. You guys obviously know this guy. He has started off with 4 straight receivers. Aiden, I know
pissing
he asked
yellow.
He's pissing yellow big time. Hashtag Peter Overs that. So you look at Team 12 here, Aiden. We already asked you about the top 2 receivers, but in a managed league like this where you can pick up running backs as the season goes on in the Fantasy Pros Championship, starting off with 4 straight receivers probably isn't, I mean, it seems weird for the uninitiated, probably isn't the worst idea to go with from the 12 spot.
I mean, I think that isn't that the whole basis of the idea of the zero RB and the wide receiver is the fact that every year there's running backs on the waiver wire you wouldn't even picture. Like all of a sudden last year you wouldn't expect it, but Deontay Foreman was a big league push right there in the middle of the season. You could have picked him up. You're looking at it, Jerick McKinnon came on down the stretch. Zonovan Knight had games. Like there's always running backs every single year out of nowhere that aren't drafted. And in a format like this where you can pick them up, absolutely, I think piss and yellow start. But there's also, as me and Turk have covered, the big thing that we talked about in the Fantasy Pros, the hard way draft, which we did a couple of weeks ago, is the running backs. There's value there late too in some of these middle rounds, and the receivers or what it's a flip of last year. Last year there was that running back dead zone come out mid round 5, and just brutal. This year, a lot of people feel as though that they're getting their running backs in the middle. These middle rounds, and the wide receivers are brutal come round 6. That's why I'm perfectly okay with it. I'm sure Terp's worried about that, right? Going 2 running backs, even though 2 running backs that he loves. But now I bet it wouldn't shock me if he tries loading up on a receiver here down the stretch.
Team 12 has exposed himself in the YouTube chat. It is Bipcoin, Biplab Mandel, a long-time FFPC
absolute legend
league winner, and he said, "Listen, Terp." He said, you took Gibbs, who was his guy, so that's why he is pissing yellow here. Got it. I don't know if we're getting not demonetized, but I hope we're not getting penalized in the algorithm on YouTube for saying the P word over and over again. So I will try to curtail my thoughts.
I keep forgetting about that stuff. I got a potty mouth.
Well, Terp, don't forget that you're on the clock right now. Tyreek Hill,
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Who are you thinking here at the 406? 405.
Amari Cooper would have been a consideration. I'm not a Debo guy, so I'm just going to take my guy. This should make you
who's
happy.
Also Bulky's guy. Your
That's what
guy.
I say. He knows.
Bulky's guy.
All aboard.
Christian Watson, the smartest pick of the draft so far, as any Green Bay Packers fanatic will tell you. Christian Watson goes at the 405 to Terp tonight. Christian Watson, I'm trying to find him on here he is on Fantasy Mojo. By the way, shout out to FantasyMojo.com, at Fantasy Mojo on Twitter. Darren Armani, the godfather of the Pros versus Joe's Challenge. Anytime we cite ADP on here, it's completely based on his website, FantasyMojo.com. If you are playing in the FFPC, you need to have a subscription to that. Well, you don't need to, but I'm telling you, you'll be a much better player if you do. Christian Watson, normally wide receiver 21 at the 408. Terp gets him at the wide receiver 20 at the 405 as his number 2 receiver tonight. I officially sign off on that pick. We are covering a Fantasy Pros Championship draft live tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be doing this every Tuesday throughout drafting season. We'll be covering a draft, mostly Fantasy Pros, but we'll touch on some other stuff. Aiden and Terp are actually covering a best ball draft coming up on Sunday. And then this Friday, if you guys want to have your draft broadcast live on the FFPC social media channels, including YouTube, make sure you are signing up for the 9 o'clock Eastern draft at myffpc.com, the Fantasy Pros Championship. We'll be covering that draft live this Friday, and one of the drafters will be a guest after the draft for about a 30-minute interview with myself and KFFSC Commissioner Farrell Elliott. So sign up for that at myffpc.com. If you want to participate in that, you could be our guest on the HSFF Hour this week. All right, so let's get into the to the 8th round here, or the 4th round here, ladies and gentlemen. We already told you that Biplab Mandel has started off with 4 receivers: St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Ridley, and then Keenan Allen. Drake London is off the board at 402 tonight to Team 11. Team 10 started off with CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Adams. They've gone running back for their last 2 rounds: Breece Hall and J.K. Dobbins. Team 9 went for 3 straight running backs to start. They now have their first receiver in Amari Cooper. Christian Watson went to Terp. George Kittle is the tight end 4 off the board tonight to team number 7, as they now have Diggs, DeVonta Smith, Josh Allen, and Kittle. Aaron Jones, love that pick in the mid to 4th round. I told everybody he was going to be moving up draft boards. He already is. Running back 16 to team 6 tonight as their number 1 running back. Lamar Jackson, QB4. This is sort of where he has settled in after the contract thing has been behind him. It is a rainbow start for team 5. Tight end, running back, receiver, quarterback. They have one of each position through 4 rounds. Lamar Jackson at the 408. Deebo Samuel falls to team 4 tonight as their number 2 receiver. Joe Mixon off the board as the number 2 running back for team 3, followed by Dallas Goedert, team 2 tonight. And then Joe Burrow finishing off the 1st round. Another rainbow start. Receiver, running back, tight end, quarterback for team 1. Pairs Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase. Let's get into the stacks here. Terp, I'm going to throw this question to you. How many times do you think you're going to see a Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert stack? And is that even a stack you'd want to go after, considering A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on that team?
I mean, it's not a bad stack, but I feel like the ceiling, if you're going to take A.J. Brown, I mean, you should probably push him up a little bit to try to get Hurts. Maybe Hurts slips to the 3rd round. Middle of the 3rd round, and you get a little lucky. If you want to try to build that stack, you're never going to get Jalen Hurts late 3rd round, so that's never going to happen. But if you take Devonta Smith, I mean, where he took him, I guess he probably thought that, no guy's going to take Hurts, without a stack partner, and he got burned a little bit. But, I mean, I still believe in stacking in these tournaments. I mean, they're bigger tournaments, bigger size people, bigger size entry fees, and obviously you need to make sure that when you get to the championship and you get to the shootout at the end, you can maximize your position. This guy still, he only has 1 receiver. Wow. First receiver, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes, we will get to, by the way, teams 2 and 3, only with 1 receiver so far. We'll get into that in a little bit. Aiden, I want to ask you about this. Jamar Chase, I don't want to say a surprise 101 because we have seen him go 101 over McCaffrey and Jefferson before. He goes 101 tonight. Team 1 ends up getting Joe Burrow at the end of the 4th round. If you take Chase number 1, do you have to make it a priority to get Burrow so you can have that stack at the end of the season as you chase a $1 million grand prize in this competition?
I don't think it's necessary. So obviously the Fantasy Pros, which is season-long management and not best ball. I think all your guests who give me a ton of information, right? They bring new point of views, new perspectives, and you kind of learn throughout that the stacks, while nice, maybe aren't as critical as say best ball. But I think there are certain stacks that are game changing, because let's say if you're trying to stack late, well, you're not always starting some of these flyer quarterbacks that you're pairing with maybe a flyer receiver in hopes that they go off. But Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, they can almost single-handedly win you some weeks. So I wouldn't say it's a necessity, but I feel as though Burrow, if you're taking Chase, is one of the more gettable stacks that you're not having to reach on Burrow's ADP. I think you're fine taking obviously Chase in the first, and more than likely Burrow does fall to that fourth round. So again, not a necessity, but that's just one where the explosiveness of those two is just it's week winning. It's crazy. It's again, as I said, just the two of them. I've seen it. Just the two of them almost single-handedly propel teams to win. So I love that stack. And honestly, I don't think it's, as you said, it's not that much of a surprise. I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm not as set as Jefferson as the 101 as a lot of people. I think it is more.
Neither am I.
It's a crapshoot this year. I think there's a lot of names that I think could be taken at one, and I'm more than okay with it.
Terp, you were just on the board at the 508, and you broke a lot of hearts, I think, by taking the 7th tight end off the board. Remember, the teams to the right of you, all 4 of them, none of them have a tight end. You got the tight end 7, Darren Waller, as your starting tight end. And I feel like people are underrating this guy, given that there's a lot of unproven and quite frankly, non-alpha receivers with the Giants. Waller's an alpha, and you got him, man.
I was really excited with the pick. It was either him or Justin Fields. I was in my brain hoping I could try to figure out a way to get DJ Moore to fall and then Justin Fields come back. It probably was a pipe dream, but that's where my brain was. But once DJ Moore went, I just feel like after Waller is a big drop-off. Evan Ingram would be the next guy, but I feel like it's just too big of a drop-off to be worried about, passing on him just to get a quarterback when there's plenty of quarterbacks that I feel like are very solid options coming up.
Take you through the 5th round here, ladies and gentlemen, of this Fantasy Pros Championship. As a reminder, all 12 of these players are drafting for a $1 million grand prize this year in the Fantasy Football Players Championship at myffpc.com. Terry McLaurin, 501 tonight. He gets paired with Jamar Chase for Team 1 as the top 2 receivers there. DeAndre Hopkins, the only receiver drafted so far by Team 2, the number 1 receiver there drafted at 502. Cam Akers is the 3rd running back drafted by Team 3. Jerry Jeudy, the 3rd wide receiver drafted by Team 4, followed by DJ Moore, who Terp was just talking about, the 2nd wideout off the board to Team 5. Kyle Pitts goes 1 round after Goddard and Kittle. Kyle Pitts, the 6th tight end off the board tonight at the 506. As a reminder, his ADP 502 as the tight end 5. Deontay Johnson, the 3rd receiver drafted by Team 7. We already told you that Terp took Darren Waller. Justin Fields off the board 1 pick later. Terp was deciding between Waller and Fields. Fields goes the next pick at the 509. For Team 9's first quarterback. Chris Godwin, the 3rd wide receiver taken by Team 10. Justin Herbert off the board as the 7th quarterback selected tonight and the number 1 quarterback for Team 11. And completing the 5th round tonight is Rachaad White, running back 19 off the board to Biplab Mandel. Aiden, are you a Rachaad White guy this year? I've gotten, I don't want to say he's polarizing yet, but there's a lot of people who like him and a lot of people that are not sold on him.
I was a Rachaad White guy last year, big time. But this year, it's weird. You think that he has all the opportunity, but it's more so just looking at the team is going to be really bad. Your hope for him is kind of almost what he did last year, and also looking at Fournette's role last year, where they would just get kind of check downs galore. Baker's checking down, but that offense concerns me. Not going to be in a lot of run-heavy situations, and it's interesting is the eye test deceived me because when I watched Rachaad White last year, he looked really good. But then a lot of those analytics, the advanced analytics were not high on him. He didn't have a good tackle rate, not explosive. So I'm kind of split. I'm intrigued to see where his ADP goes. It's remained relatively steady throughout the last month, I'd say. But as you said, it's in terms of this high stakes fantasy community, a really polarizing player. The system, the team concerns me more so in the role that he's going to have. But I think the opportunity for checkdowns is there, which is keeping me on the Rachaad White train by just a hair.
Biplab Mandel is going to hate me for this, but I'm going to bring it up in any event. Rachaad White has probably been the surprise pick of the draft tonight. He has an average ADP of running back 25 at the 6'10". Now, Biplab gets him as running back 19 at the 5'12". This is almost a full round before he normally goes. Biplab took Rachaad White. Again, Biplab Mandel, a very accomplished. This is why you watch these people. A very accomplished FFPC player. He took Rachaad White over Dalvin Cook. He took him over DeAndre Swift. He took him over Alexander Madison. He took him over Damian Pierce. He took him over Kenneth Walker. He took Miles Sanders next. So I don't know if we can lump Miles Sanders into that, but certainly there's something to be said for that. He took that running back over all those players, and I guarantee you this is the power of Biplab, the power of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to make Rachaad White move up in draft boards because he took him tonight with the last pick of the 5th round as his number one running back. And it could be team construction here, and that could be why. But the fact is, he left a lot of other running backs on the board that go on average before him. Biplab Mandel took Rachaad White.
Every single guy you listed, though, has an issue. DeAndre Swift can't stay healthy.
You can make the case that Rachaad White has an issue.
I was hoping Kenneth Walker fell because to me that was just too good of value to pass up.
See,
his ADP was, definitely not 6th round.
Yeah, I just
Aiden, go ahead, finish your thought on this.
Yeah. One big thing that I love doing following the ADP that I love the high stakes fantasy community is if you're playing your home league, you're playing on these other just more casual sites. Alexander Madison's ADP skyrocketing, right? People just he's the Vikings lead back. The people who play on the FFPC know what they're talking about. They know the advanced stats. They know the role they play. They watch. These guys watch tape. People who play on the FFPC generally sit down and break down tape. And his ADP has remained I think it only jumped up by about a round after Dalvin was officially released. And it still always impresses me seeing that he stayed very stable. I believe, Balky, if you could look up his official ADP over the last couple of days, but it's stayed relatively in that 6th round, which is probably where it should be with the Vikings. They don't run the ball. They don't really get their running backs involved. It's decreased dramatically under O'Connell. So it's just a random thought I had watching. It just always impresses me how he kind of stays steady while in these smaller stakes leagues, you see his ADP skyrocketing because people just buy into the narrative.
He has come up a little bit over the last couple of days. Now he's going at the end of the 5th round, is Madison. You look at him even earlier, quite frankly, even after the Cook announcement, this is a guy that was going in the 6th, sometimes early 7th round. So he has moved up a little bit. My point on Rachaad White is, well, from a skill set, from that standpoint, I don't want to knock him too much because I know what the Buccaneers believe he can do. But the fact of the matter is, and guys, this is the elephant in the room right now, and I know these guys may not have a big impact on fantasy teams this season, but they could. Not necessarily what they can do, but how they're going to affect other players. Leonard Fournette's a free agent. Kareem Hunt is a free agent. Ezekiel Elliott is a free agent, and Dalvin Cook is a free agent. I have little faith that all 4 of those guys sit out this season. They're going to sign with somebody, and they're going to hurt somebody. And Rachaad White could be one of those guys whose value is hurt if the Buccaneers end up signing somebody. Not saying it's going to happen to him, but I think that is the biggest wart for Rachaad White at this point. Biplab Mandel, I like what he did. Believes in the guy, believes in the player, believes in the situation. He's going to not go for broke because it's a 5th round pick, but he put his chip on Rachaad White. We'll see how that works out. I want to get through the 6th round here, guys. After Bip takes Rachaad White at the end of the 5th, he goes with Miles Sanders. Christian Kirk, the 4th wide receiver drafted by Team 11. Kenneth Walker, a running back 3 for Team 10 tonight, followed by Brandon Ayuk, the 2nd receiver drafted by Team 9. Treylon Burks goes with Christian Watson and Tyreek Hill for Terp's team. We'll get to Terp's analysis on the Treylon Burks pick in a little bit. Mike Williams, the 4th wide receiver for Team 7. Alexander Madison, we just talked about, goes with Aaron Jones for Team number 6. The first team to double up on tight end is Team 5 tonight. Travis Kelce in the 1st, Evan Engram in the 5th, DeAndre Swift, I know Terp's guy, here in the 6th round as the number 3 running back for Team number 4. Tyler Lockett to Team 3 as the number 2 receiver there. Damian Pierce is the 3rd running back drafted by Team 2. And Michael Pittman, the 3rd third wide receiver, beg your pardon. I was thinking of his dad, Michael Pittman Sr., going to Team 1 at the 6-12 tonight. Terp, tell us about Treylon Burks. I know you liked him last season. It looks like you're liking him again this year as you draft him as wide receiver 30 in the 6th round.
Yeah, definitely. It was a tough little run there. I was thinking Kirk, Walker, and Ayuk all in order, and Burks was my 4th guy on the list. I bumped him up a little bit. I just feel like compared to the other guys who went after him, his upside is, he's the only guy there. him and Chig. I mean, there's really nothing else in that offense. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is going to get there, so that's not something I'm really worried about. But there's all the positive press in camp so far, of him taking the next step and really starting to figure it out. So to me, he's worth bumping up a little bit.
There are a couple of wide receivers you could be looking at here in the 7th round. I don't think you would reach on quarterback here. You're obviously set at tight end unless you wanted to double up on tight end, which, again, I don't think you would do here. You only have 2 running backs. You are on the clock right now. Terp, get us in your mind right now. What are you thinking for the 7:08 tonight?
There's really only 2 different options. I could go double up on tight end and maybe take David Njoku. I think it might be a little too.
Well, what about Pat Freiermuth here?
No, I'm not Freiermuth.
Well, no, Washington's getting all the buzz.
I'm not there. Let me think. To me, it's down to 4 receivers. It just comes down to which one I think is probably the.
Bulky, while we let her pick, this is I feel like the range that we were talking about. Where look at some of these running backs that people are getting the 6, 7.
Yeah,
you mentioned James Conner, Dalvin, Swift, guys who are probably going to have starting roles on these teams, and you're looking at these receivers, and it's just, as Terp said, Burks, like it's not a great range for a receiver, which is why as we talked about Team 12, you said that was Team 12 is bit, right?
I mean, the thing is now Team 12, because they have all those receivers, they're free to take tight end, quarterback, load up on running back, whatever
my
they
point
want.
Is that by going those 4 receivers early.
Oh, you think it pushed everybody? I get it.
No, but they're feeling good. But now they're in the range where you're getting these value running backs, and you're actually feeling comfortable. While some of these other people who maybe went running back earlier hit other positions are hitting a receiver dead room, and he's just going to be, dead zone, and they're just struggling to find out.
There is a running back out there right now, and he has not gone yet. And we'll see what BipLab does at 12 if this guy's even available. And he might be hating me again. Ever since I called him out, I think he does hate me. So I won't say that player's name, but he is a potential league winner here. We'll see what BipLab does when it gets to Team 12. Terp, you ended up going with your 4th receiver in Marquise Brown in Arizona. Tell us about that pick.
I didn't love it. I mean, it's just, you're so used to best ball right now. It's the first managed type of league that I've been getting into. So Marquise Brown is definitely a dangerous pick because early in the season, if Kyler's not back, it's definitely a worry of what could happen. But I feel like as a 4th receiver, he with Hopkins out of town and really nothing else there, he's going to get peppered with targets, you would think, even with backup quarterbacks. So if Kyler comes back earlier, than he's supposed to, this could be a great pick. And, and if there's any reports that come out, Marquise Brown will move up if Kyler's going to be back early on.
I mean, don't even think that Marquise Brown could be successful, even if it's Colt McCoy or whoever.
Last year he got plenty of targets when, at the end of the season, when all those guys they pretty much were just tanking for picks, and Kyler got hurt, and DeAndre Hopkins, wasn't playing or just kind of not really putting any effort in. So I think the upside's there. I mean, he definitely presents the big time play, with the speed and everything. He hasn't really put it together in the NFL yet. But, I mean, who else is there? So he's definitely the number 1 receiver on the team, and on a team that should be bad, that should be throwing the ball a lot. So I'm okay with it.
Team number 7, round number 7 for Team 1. Let's go through that as we take it to the 7th round. James Conner is the 2nd running back drafted by Team 1 to pair with Najee Harris. Tonight, Kadarius Toney is the 2nd receiver drafted by Team 2. Team 3 gets their quarterback at the 7:03 tonight, and Trevor Lawrence. Dalvin Cook off the board as number 4 running back for Team number 4. Alvin Kamara down in New Orleans goes to Team number 5 to pair with Ramondre Stevenson in Team 5's backfield. David Montgomery, the 3rd running back drafted by Team 6, and then a little mini wide receiver run here. Mike Evans to Team 7. We already talked to you about Marquise Brown to Team 8. George Pickens off the board to Team 9, and then a couple of tight ends here. David Njoku is the starting tight end for Team 10. Pat Freiermuth doing the same thing for Team 11, as they only have 1 running back thus far, but they do have a starting quarterback, tight end, and 4 receivers. And then we'll tell you about BipLab here. BipLab Mandel, I thought he might do it, and he did do it. James Cook at the end of the 7th round here. But Aiden Javonte Williams off the board at the 8:01. Now, Javonte Williams is a player who is going with an average ADP at this point in Fantasy Pros drafts, running back 29 at the 7:10, bit of a value, running back 30 at the 801 tonight. But for Biplab Mandel's team at 12, where he went with the 4 receivers early, he can afford to take some swings at running back. He takes a big swing at running back. Javonte Williams could be huge for this team in the quest for $1 million, Aiden LaCourie.
Is that your potential league winner you're talking about?
Yes. At the 801, given his team construction, absolutely.
Sure. I mean, the guy with one functioning knee.
Thank you.
For now, and you're getting him at the beginning of the 8th round. I think you have to consider that.
Sure. I'm going to give one concession to Balky here. His idea is, let's say your team's well constructed, you win your league, you're on to the championship rounds, week 15 through 17. That's when you're hoping Javonte's at least ranked in form. You looked at, like with Akers last year. Akers sucked, but come weeks 15, 16, 17, or I think for him it was 16 through 18, he was putting up not monster numbers and finally looked healthy. I
agree with that statement.
But
you got to get there with Javonte Williams.
He's on the pup list. That was I know some of these guys.
I have not drafted Javonte Williams once in any draft that I've done.
But my point here is, given how Biplab Mandel has constructed
his structure, it makes sense.
Yes,
it makes a lot of sense for him to take Javonte Williams there as his number 4 running back. Now, you can make the case that he's going to have to help himself at quarterback, and he's definitely going to have to help himself at tight end, which I think he can do. But at this point, I mean, you're looking for players that can win you the million. That is $1 million player right there at the 801. You know, he's coming off the ACL, and I know his ACL tear is more significant than Breece Hall before everybody fries me on Twitter and in this live stream. But Breece Hall went tonight, guys, at the 310. Javonte Williams went at more than 4 rounds later at the 801. I'm not saying he's a savior, but what I'm telling you is if you are drafting here on June 20th, 2023, in the year of our Lord, you look at Javonte Williams with how that team is constructed, that is how you win $1 million.
You're saying everything you're saying is 100% correct. And in a format like this, you got to take some shots on guys like that. Well, I know, but I mean, with his structure of his team,
listen, you can do it a million different ways, right?
With the structure of his team, it makes sense. Like if you're taking Javonte Williams as your 2nd or 3rd running back, it's terrible. But as your 4th running back,
you have a better knee right now than Javonte Williams, and you
haven't seen my knees, my friend.
I think both of them, Javonte Williams. Term, I want to hear. I'm shocked you went Pacheco over Antonio Gibson.
I mean, it was more of just like a value type of pick. I mean, I feel like I'm betting on the offense. I mean, I'm betting on them to continue. I mean, they have nothing else there. I don't think any of these running backs are going to be coming there. McKinnon, I know, is still there and he's still annoying, but to me, he's a little bit of a safe option here as my 3rd running back. You know, I love Gibson. Hindsight's 20/20. Maybe he should have took him, but there was a thought that I thought he could make it back. But I like Pacheco. I like the value. I mean, is it a sexy pick? No. But is it a pick that is a solid weekly contributor to my team? I believe so.
Pacheco, who led the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs in rushing last year,
goes
off the board, you bet, at the 805 tonight too. Dave Terpoli.
That's back-to-back shows. You're torturing me with this.
No, I'm not torturing you. I'm praising you.
The last guy you didn't tell me was a Chiefs fan. He had a Chiefs helmet in his back thing.
I know that. Well, listen, the Rich Bilyeu was on, and I get it.
I'm still sad about it.
But here's the thing, Terp. We are June 20th. You're a smart guy. You have already found a way to separate yourself from fandom, from fantasy football. Congratulations on the Pacheco pick.
It's very hard.
It's going to work out. Moving on to the 8th round, guys. We already told you that Biplab Mandel took Javonte Williams at the 801. Gabe Davis, the 5th receiver drafted by Team 11. Deshaun Watson pairing with David Njoku in Cleveland. That's what Team 10 did here with his or her 7 and 8 picks. Jackson Smith and Jigba, the rookie receiver, off the board to team number 9 here at the 804. Pacheco to Terp. Zach Charbonnet, another rookie, as the number 1 running back for Team 7 tonight. We'll talk about that in a second. Jordan, big receiver run here. Jordan Addison to Team 6. Brandon Cooks, the 3rd receiver drafted by Team 5. Jahan Dotson, or is it Jahan? I don't know. I'm going to say it both ways. Dotson goes to Team 4 tonight at the 809. Cortland Sutton after that, and then Antonio Gibson, who we just talked about, 4th running back drafted by Team 2, and then Juwan Johnson as team number 1, doubles up on tight end. Hawkinson in the 3rd, Juwan Johnson in the 8th. Aiden, what do we make of Team 7? 5 receivers on their roster. They have an elite quarterback, an elite tight end, and now they're starting to fill in the cracks at running back. What do you make of Zach Charbonnet, the running back 32, and the number 1 running back for Team 7 tonight?
I mean, I don't love having Charbonnet as your first running back. I would have gone.
But given the team structure so far, knowing obviously, I don't want Charbonnet as my number one running back either. But if that's what my team looks like before that,
it's an interesting build. I will say, in regards just focusing on Charbonnet, I mean, the Seahawks use his second. I loved him coming out of UCLA. He's a talented running back by all accounts. In the early camps, he's getting touches. It's just weird knowing Walker's there, but I know it was a hernia. But you're looking at for right here. Let's say Walker gets banged up. Charbonnet is going to have an explosive role. I think they're going to use him. I think it's going to start off slower, but again, it's a tough build here. Looking at it, I don't know. I think when you're looking at it, I wonder, looking at it, if that run of they had James Conner started off the 7th round, then you went Dalvin Kamara, Montgomery in short order. It's just that range. I just wonder if, and then Madison one right after. If I'm doing their draft, I'm stumbling over words. That little U-turn right there for them really hurt. That after they picked Mike Williams up to Mike Evans, I'm sure a lot of those running backs they were targeting. And then they go with Samaje, which is your guy. So it's an interesting build. I would have, long story short, Balky, I would have jumped on the running backs, say around 6-7 with this build. But yeah, they just need their running backs to hit, and they'll be in a really nice spot.
And we'll see how Team 7 fills in the running backs. Obviously, I like the Charbonnet and Pirine picks there, as you mentioned.
This is random. I want to hear your 2 thoughts on this, but looking back on it, Diggs at the wide receiver 4, he's so talented, but a lot of issues for Card. Like,
a lot of issues, but
no good.
He's not really coming in at value. Like,
well,
that's the thing.
But I look at this from the standpoint of, okay, so Diggs, if he figures out like the contract thing, you feel good about it. I obviously feel good about Devontae Smith. I know Terp is not Terp, you might be a Josh Allen fan, just not Josh Allen that high, but he's an elite quarterback. I think George Kittle is going to get his. And then Deontay Johnson, I continue to think that this is one of the more slept on receivers in the FFPC. Mike Williams, Mike Evans, say what you will about them, but they are elite talents that have already demonstrated that they can put up huge numbers. Mike Williams is a fantastic quarterback, and Evans as your number 5 receiver. I mean, there's not going to be – show me a worse number 5 wide receiver than that. And then to get Charbonnet and Pirine, I think I could work with this team for sure. Terp, I want to get to your pick here in the 9th round. Not really a good quarterback value here. You already have your tight end. You have 3 running backs off your roster. Speaking of Justin Herbert, you go with the Chargers receiver here. Tell us why you like the rookie receiver, Quentin Johnston.
I'm betting on the offense. Do I love the player? I don't love the player, but I'm betting on that offense. I always come into every draft with a little bit of a plan. My plan was Justin Herbert stacked somehow in this draft. That's what my mind was telling me. Obviously, things play out different, and it didn't happen. But I love that offense this year, and I will take as many options as I can that give me as much upside in that offense, because I think the Chargers have an outside chance with Kellen Moore to be one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in football this year. The problem with it is when you take Justin Herbert, which I love stacking everything. It's like, who do you stack him with? Do you take Keenan Allen, who's probably the easiest one, but he's still getting up there in age? Mike Williams, who shows flashes, but he's always hurt. Are you betting on a rookie? Do you just figure out a way to get Eckler and Herbert? That's the tough part with that offense.
Well, Terp decides on what he's going to do in the 10th round here. Aiden, I'm going to throw this to you here. Daniel Masson in the YouTube chat wants to know, Brian Robinson after Antonio Gibson, who's the starter? Aiden, for me, I think I might like Gibson a little bit better, not only because he has the higher upside of the two, but because he's a better pass catcher of the two. I'm fine with Gibson before Robinson right now in the Fantasy Pros Championship drafts. As we look at the ADP, Brian Robinson currently going off the board as running back 34, Gibson as running back 32. I have no problem with this.
You said something. I'll change it. Gibson's a lot better as a pass catcher. I think he's a lot better as a football player. I think it's ridiculous usage by Ron Rivera. All trust in Eric Bieniemy to use his pieces correctly. I watched a lot of Brian Robinson last year. Was high on him coming in because I thought he would have a strong role the way the coaches talked about him. You kind of read the tea leaves that they loved him as a player. Got the red zone touches. It saved him a bit, but just not great. Did not have good yards per carry. it was rough. It's those stat lines are right. It was like 21 carries for 52 yards and then a touchdown to save it. It wasn't really involved in the pass catching game. The Antonio Gibson love is warranted because it's all in on Bieniemy, who some people are theorizing might be the future head coach. I don't think Ron Rivera is going to be there for that much longer.
Hopefully not.
It's just Antonio Gibson. We've all seen what he can do. His rookie year is still just not that long ago, and that was a special rookie year. Ultra talented receiver in college, great pass catcher, and hoping that offense is more explosive. And heck, I mean, how I don't think is going to be good. I think that's going to be a lot of checkdowns galore to those running backs. I'm not even a question in my mind to take Antonio Gibson over Brian Robinson. The fact that I think that should be way wider of a gap too. I don't know if it will be, but I think it should be.
I want to shine a light here on Terp's pick. Again, I keep looking at what you're going to do at quarterback. I'm with you. I probably would not have taken a quarterback there. You did not. You already had 5 receivers. You add a 4th running back, a guy that a lot of people are excited for Dynasty, in Devon Achane, a guy that maybe his role is a little bit neutered, and quite frankly, maybe his ADP has been a little bit depressed given the Dalvin Cook to Miami rumors. But Terp, you take a chance on Achane here as your number 4 running back. How happy are you with that pick?
Love the player, love the coach, love the team speed. Betting on this team is something that last year made people a lot of money, and it's something I'm willing to do again. Do I need him right away? No. But am I really worried about Mostert and Jeff Wilson? If they sign Dalvin Cook, I'm really not worried about him either. When it comes, I mean, I know there's a lot of, mouths to feed, but Dalvin Cook is kind of dusty. Let's just call it what it is. He's definitely not what he used to be. So I'm betting on this as a last 5 weeks of the season when I really need him, to pair him with Gibbs and Pollard possibly to, go for it all. That's why I look at this pick. He's not safe. It could be a wasted pick.
Right.
It could be literally a useless pick.
But Terp, we're into the double-digit rounds here at this point, and it's like after round 9 or after round 10, whatever. Joe Delzanero, Baker Boy, always said there's no such thing as a bad pick after round 10. Now you're in the hey, I don't need to swing for singles and doubles anymore. I can swing for the fences and try to crank one way out of here, which I think the Achane pick does for you. Let's get into the rest of the did I go through the 9th round? All right, I'll skip the 9th round because we're almost through round 10. A.J. Dillon off the board as the number 5 running back to Biplab Mandel. Rashad Bateman, the number 6 receiver drafted by Team 11. Rashad Penny after that as the 4th running back for Team 10. Greg Dulcich is the top tight end drafted by Team 9. We already talked about Achane to Terp. Tank Bigsby, the backup running back in Jacksonville, or the supposed backup running back in Jacksonville, is the number 3 running back for Team 7. We're going to see a lot of green there going forward, I have a feeling, from Team 7. Zay Flowers off the board. Team number 6 is number 5 wide receiver, followed by Odell Beckham. Back-to-back Ravens receiver here. Team 5 takes Odell Beckham there. Tyler Higbee to pair with Dalton Kincaid. Those are the top 2 running tight ends, beg your pardon, for team number 4. And then a bunch of receivers to end it. Jacoby Myers to Team 3, Sky Moore to Team 11, and then Romeo Dobbs to Team 12, Team 1, beg your pardon, as the number 5 receiver there. Aiden, what do you think? Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham back-to-back. You have a feeling on which actually, let's extrapolate this out even more, because 3 Ravens receivers went off the board here in round 10. Aiden, do you have a feeling on Bateman, B. Flowers, V. Beckham? Which Ravens receiver you'd rather have this year?
I mean, Bulky, I don't present myself as an expert. I'm just
You're an observer. You've seen a lot.
I am just a man who is knowledgeable from dozens upon dozens of bordering hundreds of FFPC drafts observed every year. I have no read on the Ravens receiver.
You gotta pick one. You can't sit here and say you don't have a read. Pick one.
I wouldn't pick
hold on.
Any of them.
Aiden, so you're out.
Bateman, I'm not touching. His foot might be absolute dust, as Terp likes to say. Bad reports coming out of there. Like Zay Flowers, still don't trust Lamar as a passer. Odell's been he's missed a whole year, and he's getting up there. So Zay Flowers by process of elimination, but man, I wish Zay Flowers went anywhere but Baltimore. But Zay Flowers would be the pick, and I wouldn't be confident at all, because I still think that just maybe Mark Andrews and just a run heavy offense. Although Lamar says he wants to throw it more, and Todd Monken is probably going to open up the offense. I don't know if that's a good idea, if I'm being completely honest.
No, interesting.
So to answer Zay Flowers, I'm not touching any of them.
Terp, you have finally gone quarterback here in the 11th round.
Pick.
You go with the pride of Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa, normally drafted.
Don't hit him in the head, please.
As the quarterback 12 at the 12:03, you get him as the quarterback 12 at the 11:08 tonight. I'm kind of curious, why did you not want to wait around to see if he would be there in the 12th round, given the four teams behind you already had quarterbacks?
I don't like getting cute. This is not. I've been cute on these streams before, and it burned me a bunch of times. So I'm fine with reaching just a little bit. Look at Team 2. They took Hurts and Anthony Richardson. What sense does that make realistically?
I was going to ask you about that.
I mean, this doesn't. In best ball, yeah, that makes sense. Two obviously high upside quarterbacks with an elite with Jalen Hurts. But to me, you can't dance around in prime positions in this format. And could I have waited and probably got him? Yeah, but it's a risk with Deshaun Watson and Prescott, which you could easily get a backup here just to protect yourself. So I'll take my chances and just keep it moving.
Had you not had Tyreek Hill in the first round, would you have been more willing to wait to the 12th round to take Tagovailoa?
I would have never take Tua.
So you wouldn't have taken him. The only reason you took him in the 11th was because you had Hill.
The only reason I took him was because I took Tyreek. I would never take Tua by himself.
Got it. Well, I'm just looking at the rest of your receivers here and tight ends, and obviously receivers and tight end. Jordan Love, Daniel Jones, Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, Kyler Murray would still be out there with Marquise Brown. Herbert's gone, but you had your pick at a lot of these other guys, and maybe we'll see another pick for you.
Who knows? I might take another one right here just to be safe.
Right. We will find out as Terp's coming up. Take you through the 11th round, ladies and gentlemen. Jerick McKinnon, the third running back drafted by Team 1. As Terp just told you, Anthony Richardson off the board to go with Jalen Hurts for Team 2 here in the 11th round. Jamal Williams, number 5 running back drafted by Team 3. Team 4 now has 5 receivers. Rondale Moore joining the club there. Alan Lazard off the board at the 11:05 tonight. That means he is the 5th receiver drafted by Team 5. Kendre Miller going with Aaron Jones, Alexander Madison, and David Montgomery to Team 6 tonight. The 4th straight running back has been drafted by Team 7. That's Jaylen Warren out of Pittsburgh. Tagovailoa to Terp. Darnell Mooney, the 5th receiver drafted by team number 9. And then his real-life teammate, Roschon Johnson, being drafted as the number 5 running back for Team 10. Elijah Mitchell off the board now as Team 11's number 3 running back. Cole Kmet and Irv Smith at the 11-12 turn as Biplab Mandel has solved his tight end issue as he gets a couple of them here in rounds 11 and 12.
Sure about that one?
I'm not sure. I love
Bip, but are we sure about that one?
I think at this point, I don't know what else he could do. There were 16 tight ends off the board. He gets Kmet and Smith. He already had 5 running backs. He already had 4 receivers and a quarterback. I think he did. I mean, this is the way the draft shaped up for him to get Kmet and Irv Smith there. We'll have to have a massive Irv Smith discussion on Friday's High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Nothing pleases Farrell Elliott more than a spirited Irv Smith discussion, and I say that with all the sarcasm in the world. Jerick McKinnon at the 11:01, Aiden. This is a guy that scored a ton of touchdowns last year for Kansas City. He's back with the Chiefs this year. Is he being appropriately drafted here in the 11th round?
I guess it's just it's tough because every year I feel like you just never factor in Jerick McKinnon, and it's every year come the stretch run. It's Jerick McKinnon is the lead back and scoring a bunch of touchdowns, and he's the Andy Reid trust him. There's somebody said is they haven't really added any running backs. I know Clyde's still there, Pacheco's still there. McKinnon's going to have a role, and that role could expand because Clyde isn't going to stay healthy. Pacheco, who knows if he can handle an expanded workload. He got banged up down the stretch last year. So I think McKinnon's being appropriately drafted because the role's been all over the place for the last couple of seasons. Some weeks you're getting a great running back who's touches, and then other weeks literally gets 0. Sometimes they barely any snaps. So appropriately drafted, but I think the upside is there. It's just McKinnon is someone I don't always mean to go back to this sometimes as I brought up a couple times, but I like McKinnon way more in best ball formats because of those boom weeks. I think it's just he's a tough player to judge what his role is on a week-to-week basis.
Terp, you had the opportunity to draft somebody in the 12th round here that is a confluence of what you're looking for in the double-digit rounds. Opportunity, yes. Talent, yes. And upside, yes. Nico Collins in Houston this year has the opportunity to do some pretty wonderful things. How happy were you with him at the 1205 as wide receiver 58 off the board tonight?
He was definitely somebody I considered if I wasn't going to take Tua, so I'm very happy he made it back. Like you said, opportunity is there. I mean, there's a bunch of guys. I mean, he is probably the best guy out of all of them as of right now, with the questions surrounding the other guys. So he's definitely worth the bet. I mean, as of now, he's the number one receiver with a rookie quarterback. You hope they gel. I mean, he could be a steal at this point, and if you get some, he could be a press guy. In the preseason, you see a couple blurbs, a couple, tidbits, a couple news stories about how he's having a good, rapport with CJ Stroud. He can move up a couple rounds. So he's definitely a guy I feel like you take the shot with, and I think it's going to be worth it. Sixth receiver. Yeah,
as your number 6 receiver. Let's bring this up from the YouTube chat. This is Broward Bravado, guy who's drafted a bunch of FFPC teams already. He wants to know what's our consensus on taking a second quarterback when a top 5 quarterback is already taken. Terp, you already weighed in on this. Team 2 gets Jalen Hurts in the 3rd. Then they take Anthony Richardson in the 11th. Terp says he doesn't
understand. The Eagles defense, don't forget about them.
And the Eagles defense in the 12th, just now off the board.
Hopefully he's an Eagles fan. If he is, I'll let him go. But if he's not...
I mean, why wouldn't you love James Bradbury? I mean, just great quarterback. He's that all.
The schedule to open up the season is really good. So the Philadelphia defense.
Love James Bradbury. I mean, just phenomenal.
This is 3 Eagles off the board for Team 2. Terp, you sure you're not drafting for the second spot tonight?
I am not. I mean, I have to be an Eagles fan. Maybe he knows I'm an Eagles fan. I don't know. You never know with these things. People do like weird things.
Aiden, I can't get on board in a managed league for taking Anthony Richardson in the 11th round when I already have Jalen Hurts. I'm not touching quarterback until the last couple of rounds of the draft, if at all, quite frankly, if I'm drafting on June 20th. Your thoughts on pairing Richardson with Hurts?
Yeah, I agree with everything Terp said. I love the upside of Richardson. I just don't know how it's going to be there year one. I understand it. I was super high on him in the NFL draft. I love the landing spot. I think it's just going to take him a lot of time. Although I do say there are some positives, right? It does have Jonathan Taylor. I actually love that receiving core. It kind of almost, I said it once right after the NFL draft. I think me and Terp did a live show, and I said, I love that Colts wide receiver room. I like Pittman. I like Alec Pierce. And then Josh Downs is a steal.
Yeah.
But I like Richardson as a late flyer. More so as bulky, I think you were saying, in this type of format. If you have Hurts, I don't understand the Richardson allure.
You know, and I'll say this too, and we'll try. Well, let me take it through round 12 here. Tyler Boyd's the last pick. Irv Smith to Biplab Mandel. Deontay Foreman, the number 4 running back drafted by Team 11. Kirk Cousins is backing up Deshaun Watson for Team 10. Rashee Rice to Team number 9. That is their number 6 receiver. Collins to Terp. And then you have Gerald Everett backing up George Kittle to Team 7. Sam Laporta is the number 2 tight end to Kyle Pitts for Team 6. Tyler Algier, the number 3 running back drafted by Team 5. Daniel Jones off the board to Team number 4. Juju Smith-Schuster to Team 3. We already talked about the Eagles defense to Team 2. And then Tyler Boyd going to Team 1 as their number 6 receiver tonight. Dan Williamson, the GOAT District legend, chiming in right now in the YouTube chat. Turpy says, your team's looking great. Bip Lab's team looking great. Not a fan of Team 5. And in fact, he also said after the Eagles pick the defense for Team 2, Team 2 is now giving Team 5 a run for their money. We have not talked about Team 5 a whole lot tonight, Terp. I'll let you weigh in on this before you got to make a pick. Kelsey, Engram, and Schultz, the first team tonight with 3 tight ends. They took care of that in the first 9 rounds. Higgins, DJ Moore, Cooks, Beckham, and Lazard, and Alec Pierce now in the 13th round. The running backs, only Ramondre Stevenson, Alvin Kamara, and Tyler Algier. I think that's the weakness of this team. Terp, Dan Williamson is not giving a lot of thought to this team tonight. What about you?
I agree with Dan. We see eye to eye here. I mean, let me make my pick real quick.
His second running back is Tyler Algier. It's not.
Yeah, no, it's Alvin Kamara.
No, but it's not going to be for the first 6 weeks of the season.
Oh, that Aiden. He got me on that one. Yeah, that's true. You got to weather the storm somehow, and maybe you get somebody late and hits on somebody. But you're right. Kamara not officially suspended yet, but obviously the tea leaves are out there, and it's not looking great for him. Terp, your thoughts on Team 5 now that you have taken
excited about the
Ford.
tight end format, obviously with the FFPC, drafting 3 tight ends. I mean,
when
you take Kelsey, to me, you take nobody else. There's just – you're betting on Kelsey. If he gets hurt or has a bad season or Mahomes gets hurt, your teams are pretty much done. So, like, when you take Kelsey, to me, it's just punt the position, maybe take somebody really, really late, and then keep it moving.
I didn't even hate the start.
I don't like T. Higgins personally. I'm just somebody that I'm off this year.
The first 4 rounds, I'm fine with. It's just, since then,
Stevenson got pushed up a little bit, but it's Ingram, Kamara, like Cooks, Schultz. Like, there's no like Odell with Lamar. I love that, but then, like you said, the running back room, that could be a crutch. I mean, if Stevenson isn't a top 5 running back, this team could be in a lot of trouble. Definitely agree with Dan.
Round 13, guys, Keontae Ingram, running back 50, and he is the number 4 running back off the board to Team 1 tonight. Tyjae Spears and his 1 ACL goes to team number 2 tonight. That is his 5th running back. You're looking at Zay Jones here as the 6th receiver, drafted by Team 3. Back-to-back quarterbacks for Team 1 tonight, Daniel Jones in the 12th, Geno Smith in the 13th, followed by a couple of receivers. Alec Pierce to Team 5, Rashid Shaheed to Team 6, and then a couple of running backs. Chuba Hubbard to Team 7. Terp took Jerome Ford at the 1308. A couple of tight ends after that, Mike Gesicki to Team 9, Dawson Knox to Team 10, and then 2 more receivers here. So we finished round 13, 2 receivers, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. Michael Gallup to Team 11. Marvin Mims is the number 5 receiver drafted by Bipleb Mandel, his first receiver he has drafted since round 4. Let's move on and talk about your pick here. Terp, I was reading an article today about the best duos in the NFL as far as running backs go. And I want to say the Browns were ranked. This is all arbitrary, obviously. But the Browns are ranked, I think, number 4 or number 5 on this list for the top running back duos. Nick Chubb went super early, obviously, running back 8 as he went at the 209 tonight. But you get Jerome Ford, the backup there, as running back 53 in the 13th round. I really like that pick for you. How thrilled were you?
Very excited. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're even thinking about adding anybody. So he's definitely, Nick Chubb's a warrior. He's a guy that doesn't miss many games. But I still think Ford's going to have a role. I mean, especially, they're not just going to run Chubb into the ground. So I'm pretty excited about that pick. He's somebody I didn't think would fall, considering the guys around him. I mean, Keontae Ingram, major questions. Spears, obviously, with the knee. Hubbard, is more of a best ball pick, in my opinion. Yes, he's back up to Miles Sanders, but to me, they're just going to eat each other up, and neither are going to be as valuable. But I like Jerome Ford. I think it's a good value at the spot. So very happy with the selection.
Dan Williamson is piping in the chat. We're talking about Team 5 tonight, and he does make a good point. Travis Kelce to team number 5 at the 105, and then he had the opportunity to take Patrick Mahomes at the 305. Went with T. Higgins instead. Is there something to be said? And I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here. Is there something to be said, because we've seen a lot on Twitter and obviously Fantasy Mojo? There are so many teams that already have the Kelce Mahomes stack. Is there something to be said for pivoting from that turf, where you would want to go for a different direction, or do you have to go with Mahomes there?
I feel like in with this type of format, you saw the success rate that it was last year. I feel like it's a must. I think it's just a losing proposition if you don't do it that way.
We appreciate having Dan in the chat, because both in our conversation about that's already been, again, we're focused on so much else. I didn't even notice that. In moments
I didn't even notice that either.
In moments like this, you spam the Fantasy Mojo stats that he has from last year in this contest. What was it, Terp? 70% of
75%. I think it was. You just can't. If you take Kelce and somehow Mahomes makes T in the 3rd round,
you were making your money back.
You just have to make the pick. I mean, if it fails, it fails. But you're betting on the best offense in football. So how do you not, for T. Higgins, the 2nd receiver on the team? Like, what's T. Higgins' ceiling? Even without Jamar Chase, you saw a couple games he missed last year. T. Higgins was okay. He wasn't great. I mean, I just think Higgins, like he said it perfectly. Higgins has no upside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a
feeling already. I mean, I can't say anything better than he just said.
Dan's chiming in too that he thinks that Higgins is being drafted at his upside. It's a safe pick, but he said that's the best compliment he can give that pick with no Mahomes there. And I will say this, there is something to be said. Scott McMillan chiming in. He did get Lamar Jackson in the 4th round, who could be number 1 overall. The issue with that is, when it comes to be those money weeks in the Fantasy Pros Championship, you want to have those stacks, and you will not have it there. It still could work out where Kelsey crushes it and Lamar Jackson crushes it, and maybe you end up separating yourselves from those Kelsey Mahomes teams. But it is rare, and the stats don't back it up. And as Bepley Mandel points out in the YouTube chat, 75% of Kelsey Mahomes playoffs last year. Like, that's what you got to do.
That's insane. If you really think about it. I saw a stat, I didn't believe it, but
there's only a few stacks that can do it too. And Mahomes, Kelsey's one. You talked about Burchase. And I wanted to say this a couple of rounds back, but obviously we started talking about some other stuff. I think Tua and Tyreek's that. And Tua is the only one who you're getting in double-digit rounds. I know the health risk, career could be over. But look at them when he was healthy. I mean, those two, Tyreek was putting up 180 on 10 receptions and a touchdown, and Tua was 303.
It's hard not to bet on that offense. I mean,
I can't get over the potential of this.
Very condensed. I mean, the running back position is a little bit of a mess right now. They have no tight end.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It's the capital. That's what I go back to. Is you're getting a potentially. We talked about Bulk, you and me, when terms of they picked that Burrow and Chase's guy. Single-handedly, those two can win you a week. Tua and Tyreek's like that on a consistent.
The way they played last year, I didn't have much of them last year, so I suffered the pain of Tua and Tyreek last year.
Right.
So
let's go to this question. Broward Bravado wants to know who's the next Mahomes Kelsey this year. And I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at this. You can look at, maybe Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, right? You could look at
I have an answer, but I'm going to wait for just
okay. Well, then that's what I was going to say. If it's quarterback tight end, there's a lot of options, right? Because you have Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. You have Evan Engram and Trevor Lawrence. You have Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert. If you want to expand it more to just receiver quarterback, obviously Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase is big. You want to take it a step down with some room to grow. Daniel Jones, Darren Waller. I mean, that's a possibility as well. Another step down, David Njoku, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of possibilities. Terp, who is your pick?
I mean, Daniel Jones and Darren Waller is definitely one that should be very, very popular. One that most people are not talking about is the resurgence of Russell Wilson this year. And the tight end Dulcich is extremely talented. You saw flashes last year. I mean, he definitely has the upside. He's getting a lot of positive press early, which you always like to see. There's really nobody else there. Alberto is, not even mentioned as a football player anymore. Right. As a guy who was getting drafted in the single-digit rounds last year. So he's a guy that something a little under the radar. I also like Derek Carr and Juwan Johnson. Do I think they're Kelsey Mahomes? No, but I think if I had to pick one, it would be Russell Wilson and Dulcich.
Round 14, let me just quickly take you through that, guys. Michael Carter to team 1. Adam Thielen off the board as his number 5 receiver. Isaiah Likely. The Ravens tight ends have both been grabbed by team 3 tonight. Mark Andrews in the 2nd. Isaiah Likely in the 14th. Oh, I'm going the wrong way here, aren't I? I am going
the wrong way.
It's
okay. Nobody's going to tell on you.
Yeah, I'm going to tell on myself. Jared Goff with Dak Prescott to team 12. Leonard Fournette, the free agent, off the board. That is the number 5 running back drafted by team 11. Devin Singletary to team 10. Derek Carr is backing up Justin Fields for team 9. Jonathan Mingo to Dave Terpoli. We're going to get to that in a second. Van Jefferson off the board to team 7. Ezekiel Elliott, another free agent running back, going off the board here at team 6's 14th round pick, followed by another free agent running back, Kareem Hunt. Chase Brown, the rookie running back out of Atlanta, to team 4. Likely, Thielen, and Carter off the board at 14. Terp, I want you to talk about Mingo, but tell us about Tyler Conklin here in the 15th round.
Tyler Conklin showed flashes last year. We know that Aaron Rodgers likes his tight ends. I'm shocked.
Does he like his tight ends? I don't know.
I think he likes them a lot more. I mean, quality.
Michael Finley.
Jermichael Finley was great, and then after that, it was Bupkis.
What a name!
Robert Tunyon.
Tunyon had one season. Tunyon had one season.
One of the flukiest seasons you're ever going to find.
Yes, totally. Because it was all touchdowns.
Right? Wasn't he a top 5? Like he was like tight end
top
5.
Top 3. I think he was
touchdowns.
It was 13 touchdowns. But that was the thing. Like if once those touchdowns, and obviously he tore his ACL, so we'll never really know. We're living in the matrix at this point. But the reason he was so high that one year was because of all those touchdown grabs. I remain steadfast that Rodgers, again, it was in Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur's offense. For whatever reason, they just didn't throw the tight end outside of those 2 seasons. Finley before he got hurt, and then Tunyon the year he was healthy. But outside of that, they didn't throw to the tight end a whole lot. And quite frankly, I guess they didn't have an elite tight end there. But I wouldn't call Conklin an elite tight end either.
He's definitely not an elite tight end, but I feel like, with this format being what it is, I mean, he is a safe tight end with Waller and his injury risk. I feel like he's a guy that's going to play most of the snaps in an offense that should be ascending this year with Aaron Rodgers, you would think. So I'm happy with it.
I can't fault you as far as it goes. I mean, he's your second tight end going off in the 15th round. Tell us about Jonathan Mingo. You took him in the round 14. I said that this is a guy that maybe could be the number one receiver long-term for Carolina because they don't really have an answer there. I think he's behind Thielen this year, but not a lot of competition there, and they should be throwing a lot, Turp.
I'm betting on two offenses with the last two receiver picks that have a lot of questions at their receiver position. I'm betting on talent. I think Nico Collins is one of the talented, most talented guys there. That Houston does have some dogs there with, some of the young guys who, coming off injuries, and then Dell they drafted. But Mingo, I mean, DJ Chark, question. Thielen, question. I mean, Terrence Marshall never put it together. He has a ton of talent. Can he gel with Bryce Young? Can he figure out the NFL system? I think he can. So, I mean, he's definitely just an upside play, a guy that I don't need right away that could emerge for me if Bryce Young takes that, early rookie, step. So definitely something I'm excited about. I'm going to be on the clock here momentarily. Why is Aaron Rodgers? Did Aaron Rodgers get hurt or something? Did I miss something?
He actually did. His calf.
But I know he got like a little sprained boo-boo, but
he
shouldn't be available right now.
He's been dropping in some of these drafts that we've been doing.
What's the latest he's gone in the draft? You guys have I don't have the thing.
I have it up. I have it up right here. The latest he has gone in any Fantasy Pros draft over the last week has been 1603. So this will set a new record over the last week here. Turf, if you'd like to take him, you could.
I don't want to though.
Well, then don't take him. This is your team.
It just seems like I'm not really a value-based drafter in these. I'm kind of just a get my guy type of thing. But with Tua, he seems like a guy that.
Well, you get the New York Jets hookup, the Conklin Rogers hookup here.
That's not exciting.
The Conklin Rogers hookup said no one.
That's not making a move. Come on.
That's going to be one of my team names this year in Kentucky, the Conklin Rogers.
No, I'm on the clock. What am I doing?
You're going.
You got 10 seconds, Turp.
I'm not taking Aaron Rodgers. I'm going with what I was going to do.
Yeah, buddy. There's a real hookup for you.
I'm all aboard the love.
What Aaron Rodgers? Why is Aaron Rodgers on the board? Aaron Rodgers.
I didn't even know I was on the clock there, so that was kind of scary.
Love takes the replace.
I just heard that. Thank God that they talk to you and they say when you're on the clock. I had no clue there. I'm sitting
back
there
to back Packers.
Talking to you guys. Why is Aaron Rodgers on the clock?
Back to back
in my queue that I would have took.
Back to back Packers here in round 16. Jordan Love and Luke Musgrave. Jordan Love, there's nothing wrong with that pick, dude. There is nothing wrong with that.
Love. I might be a minority. He's one of my highest owned quarterbacks so far.
I'll bring this up, and I can't remember who was saying this. I think I was watching Pat McAfee, and one of the guys, Pat McAfee, I don't know if you guys watch his show, but he has about 137 co-hosts, and one of them said, look, if you listen to the drum beats coming out of Packers training or mini camp and OTAs, is that Jordan Love really looks the part. And the proof in the pudding is, Jair Alexander, the max contract, not max contract, but one of the highest paid cornerback in the NFL, one of the best corners in the NFL, guy who he goes up against Jordan Love each and every day in practice, interrupted a Jordan Love press conference, put his arm around Love and said, this is QB1 right here, best quarterback in the league. He's got to stop trying me in practice, man. And so we say, oh, that's fun and frivolity. But at the same time, McAfee, one of his co-hosts, said, if Love was sucking it up and if he wasn't doing well, the defenders would not be around him.
They would not coming over there and saying anything.
Right, exactly. And he did. And I've been staunch on this, guys. I've said, I don't think Love is ever going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't think he has to be. I think he could make a couple of Pro Bowls because the bar for making the Pro Bowl has never been lower. I think he's going to be a competent quarterback in year one. I think it's going to be very exciting to see how these young weapons grow. We just saw Luke Musgrave go off the board, the pick after Jordan Love to Turp. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs has been working out a ton with Jordan Love. You have Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed is there as well. I mean, there's a lot of young weapons there for Jordan Love, and I don't know if necessarily the Packers offense is going to set the world on fire in 2023, but man, going forward, the future is bright there. I like Love this year as a redraft pick.
I think the Packers could win that division.
I think they could. I don't know if they will, but I think they could.
If Love takes that step that some people, especially myself, think he's going to take, I mean, that division is wide open. I mean, I know the Lions are the favorite. The Bears are the popular team right now. Fields taking the next step. Vikings are always the Vikings in there. But I mean, that offense has a ton of young talent, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, young tight ends. If they can figure it out, can the coaching staff, get those guys to buy in? Defense is okay. I mean, but I like the Packers this year. I'm betting on the Packers offense. Most people are not. They're all off them, but I bet Christian Watson, he's my guy. So if I'm betting on Christian Watson, that means I'm betting on Jordan Love. So
Yeah, sort of have to like Jordan Love at that point.
Yes, you sort of have to.
Quarterback 18 at the 1605 is where Terp got him tonight. Aiden, let's go back over to Biplab Mandel's team here at Team 12. Dak Prescott and Jared Goff is who we got. I love the quarterbacks there in the 9th and 14th. That's really good value. Komet and Irv Smith, and now he's added Jake Ferguson, who seems like he is going to be the starting tight end for Dallas. He has gotten the Niners defense. He added Marvin Mims as his number 5 receiver in round 13 after not taking one since round 4. How do you see this team shaping up for Biplab here at the 12 spot? I think it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Goff Amon-Ra stack. Marvin Mims, another guy who I wouldn't be on, but when you're on fantasy Twitter every day and you're just seeing the constant love, the
all aboard.
Love him. No, I mean, I love Bip's build, what he's doing right here. I think talking about Balky, you talked about Christian Watson, you talked about the young receivers, we talked about Jordan Love, we talked about Aaron Jones. I don't want to just completely give up on AJ Dillon. I think he's still a super talented back.
Yeah. I'm kind of whatever. Like, there's nobody.
You aren't a fan?
No, I'll tell you this. There is no more beloved Packer than A.J. Dillon in Northeast Wisconsin right now. He's the mayor of Door County, which is one of the resort counties we have in Northeast Wisconsin. Yes, we have resort counties in Northeast Wisconsin. He's the mayor of it. He loves it. He has endeared himself to Packers fans. I just look at it from the standpoint, unless Aaron Jones gets hurt, this guy is never going to be a player that's going to catch a ton of passes. Touchdowns are fluky. He's a plotter. He is not the type of guy that people are going to overpay for his second contract. I think he's a very unexciting player. If Jones gets hurt, yeah, then we could talk with Dillon, but I have never been wowed by A.J. Dillon.
I loved A.J. Dillon going into the last year, so some of it is just residuals.
He was not very good to start the season, but at the end of the season, I mean,
yeah,
on my best ball team, that was the thing. He got me there.
I know. I zoomed
down
in.
the stretch. Here's a question for you, Balky. If A.J. Dillon was not around, where does Aaron Jones get drafted?
Well, listen, I've been of the point, even with Dillon around, I think that Jones should be going much higher than
you've always been on that camp.
No, I mean, so how much higher?
I'll tell you this right now. If they didn't have, if like Dillon wasn't there and their second running back is who they're dealing with right now with Tyler Goodson or Lou Nichols or Patrick Taylor, Aaron Jones is a borderline first round pick. And that's because he would be forced by necessity to be out there on a ton of third downs. He would not be doing this thing where, he takes every third series off or anything like that. He'd be out there a ton, and he's an exquisite pass catcher. He is great. Between the tackles as well. I think where he should be going right now is more like early to mid third. He goes in the mid fourth tonight. I think that's too low. He would be a borderline first round pick if they did not have a back of the ilk of A.J. Dillon like they have right now.
Aaron Jones gets hurt every year. That's just another thing he does. And he's getting
he does miss time. He does miss time. But the thing is, it's not like when he misses, it's not like A.J. Dillon is getting 25 carries for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. He doesn't really exploit that as much as maybe another backup running back would. And that's fine. I mean, maybe you don't need him to do that. As Dan Williamson pointing out, Quadzilla going from a major reach last year to a major value this year. Dillon going right now in the draft as guys, help me out on this. Where did A.J. Dillon go today? Or tonight, I should say. In this
I zoomed in.
Oh, Team Biplab took him.
RB 38.
Running back 38. He gets it at the 10:01. On average, A.J. Dillon is going at running back 36 at the 9:08. So I'm with Dan Williamson on this. I can get on board with him right there. I just have lowered expectations, and I just don't ever think he is the guy that is ever going to be like this. He doesn't have the upside necessarily of guys going around him like Devin A-Chain, the game breaker type. Samaje Perine, who I still remain high on because I I am unsure of what Javonte Williams, and I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, I'm unsure of what Javonte Williams' injury status is going to bring this year. I think he could be a league winner. I think he could also train wreck some teams. So I think that you have to look at those other players going around Dillon there. But yeah, I mean, if Jones gets hurt, he's not a spring chicken anymore. Dillon could put up some pretty good numbers. Are they league winning? I remain skeptical. Ooh, that's another good point from Dan Williamson. This is totally true. Packers medical staff is also famously cautious with return to play recommendations. That is 100% true, almost to the detriment. We've heard players speak out like, I'm ready to go. Devontae Adams said this a couple years ago. I'm ready to go. I don't know why they're not playing me. We had that hamstring injury, and it really prevented him from going out there and helping the Packers win a lot of games. That is true. They are very cautious with injuries, which could bode well for Dillon if Jones were to go down. Terp, let's go through your last couple of picks after Jordan Love. You get Logan Thomas. I like that pick. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, another high upside type guy there in the 18th round to go with your Isaiah Pacheco 8th round pick.
No upside.
It's just betting on an offense. I mean, that's really
what he has no upside. 20th round, none. That's a waste.
He still has, again, with what's left, realistically, if I had to do it over, I probably would have took Malik Davis.
But Aiden, that's the thing here is like if Pacheco
nothing.
No, hold on. No.
If
Pacheco were to go down, Edwards-Helaire becomes a top 25 running back.
If they just give up on
Edwards-Helaire is the biggest scam maybe in the world.
He's an 18th round pick, and Terp has Pacheco. There is something
but
there.
Also, I still live in the camp that if he just totally stinks in the preseason, they might give up on him. And you know the first team that will call since he gets cut. Yeah. And that is Joe Burrow and
right.
The Bengals.
Well, I just want to say
that Dan Williamson is on my side with this.
Yes, Dan is. First off, on these streams, as my sarcasm gets misconstrued. First off, I don't mind the pick at all.
Okay.
I just hate Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I get it.
Ruined me.
You put him in the same camp as Allen Robinson. I was thinking about taking him.
Worse. He has his own tier. That there's 50 feet of shit, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has burned me so many times. It's like it was a borderline just an abusive relationship, and I was getting abused by Clyde Edwards-Helaire every draft season.
I get it.
I love that.
That makes sense.
No, jokes aside with Clyde, I really don't think he's going to amount to anything. But as you said, if the Chiefs give him a shot, but the more intriguing possibility is Terp. What you said is that he gets cut and maybe goes to the new team, Cincy, and it kind of reinvigorates his career, just a new scheme. But I'm being dead serious. I could not have been more wrong ever about a player. That's my biggest miss. Coming out of LSU.
Well,
Chiefs pick. I don't understand how he's not good. It's just shocking to me that he's just a bad football player. I do have PTSD. It's crazy.
CEHPTSD ABC XYZ. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the other thing too is, you say you were wrong about him. I think you can make a really strong case that the Chiefs were wrong about Clyde Edwards-Helaire making him a first-round pick in the NFL draft. So you were not alone on that. Terp,
I remember that Thursday night game though. There were guys on Twitter that were saying it, #1 overall. He got taken #1 overall in a bunch of drafts in Vegas. He was the next coming of Todd Gurley and
Kareem Hunt.
Charles.
Remember, Terp, you remember in Vegas a few years ago when Hunt had that crazy Thursday night game, the opening game, and then what happened in the main event drafts at the FFPC at Planet Hollywood? He was the 101.
I'm telling you, there's always the wildness to that Thursday night game. And this year, man, get your popcorn ready because Kelsey, Gibbs, St. Brown. I mean, you could keep going down the list of guys. All them Kansas City receivers, all of them, not named Kelsey. Those guys can move up 4, 5, 6 rounds in some cases with good games. That's why
it's going to be funny, Terp, though. Like nothing Mahomes does on Thursday night should increase or decrease his stock, right? Because you should expect these.
True. If he puts up like a 35, 40-point game.
No. My point is that people.
Remember Peyton Manning?
My point is not that he's going to do something that could boost it. Right. But my point is, in my head, I'm expecting this. He's the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. Like I'm expecting this, but some of these boosts are going to be crazy from things for.
But if he goes out and puts up 14 points or 13 points or something like that, You're going to see him fall probably 4th, maybe 5th round in some cases.
Because what's the total on that game right now, guys? It's in the 50s, right?
It's in the 50s. Easily.
That's what I'm more intrigued by, because I could see the lines disappointing that game, and
clock,
maybe Gibbs has a little bit of a discount, or Amon-Ra.
Well, it's not even. Let's not even focus on the Lions. It could be the Chiefs and Lions. If the final score of that game is something like 24-19 or whatever, you're not only going to see a dip from Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce.
Where does Kelce fall to?
Pacheco, like all these guys. Yeah, Kelce might even. I don't know if he dipped to the second round, but
he wouldn't get to the second round, but he'd be
end of the first.
Think about all the main event drafts that are drafted. You'll have some unique rosters with Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
At the end
I mean,
the
more interesting thing for me is, let's say Gibbs. I remember this is years ago. Balk, you remember seeing the Bears, Packers. I believe it was 2019 season, and David Montgomery had all the hype from training camp. Did nothing that opening Thursday against the Packers, and he dropped.
Well, no one did. The final score of that game was 10-3. Jimmy Graham had the only touchdown.
Let's say that happens with Jahmyr Gibbs. Well, because you've been seeing all the tweets. Let's say, could you imagine Gibbs' value after he explodes on that? If he doesn't, that game isn't going to change my expectations, because I think I could see a little bit of a slow start, and I'm buying that discount. I'm buying it.
But then you have to remember too, maybe this is more of a point for Aiden, because the Rams was that last year where Cam Akers versus Darrell Henderson, and then Akers never played, and Darrell Henderson got the huge bump up draft boards, and Cam Akers fell quite a bit. So you're right. I mean, there are going to be wild sweeping generalizations to that. And it happens every year. And I'm rooting for, I think we're all rooting for like a 41-38 final.
Just wildness, because that Friday draft's always.
Oh yeah,
you could see a top 5 pick, Jahmyr Gibbs, easily if he goes
crazy town plus. Banana pants. Terp, let's talk about your the last pick I want to bring up here. Round 17, Logan Thomas. I just saw a blurb the other day that the Commanders tight ends could be a lot more involved in the passing game this year, and you get Logan Thomas as your 3rd tight end here in round 17. How much did that factor into your decision there?
I read the same thing you read. So with Eric Bieniemy, he likes to get his tight ends involved. It's definitely a play of what else is behind Logan Thomas. I know he's coming off, some injuries the last couple of years. He hasn't really been that productive.
Mm-hmm.
But with Eric Bieniemy and, Sam Howell being an unproven quarterback, he could look to his tight end a lot. They have very, very solid weapons on the outside. Should free up Thomas a lot more. As my 3rd tight end, I think he presents some upside, especially with 0 behind him and 0 out there. It's not like the running back position with tight ends. There's nobody out there. There's nobody going to come out there and steal snaps from him unless they trade for somebody who's really out there. So to me, it's a safe pick. If he stays healthy, he should outperform Conklin, with Eric Bieniemy, if he takes the steps that most of us think he's going to.
Dave Tripoli drafting from the 8th spot tonight. Terp, your team ends up being this: Tua Tagovailoa and Jordan Love at the quarterback position. In the backfield, joining them, Tony Pollard, Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, Devin Achane, Jerome Ford, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Receivers, Tyreek Hill, Christian Watson, Treylon Burks, Marquise Brown, Quentin Johnston, Nico Collins, and Jonathan Mingo. The tight ends are Darren Waller, Tyler Conklin, and Logan Thomas. Kicker is Brandon McManus. Defense is the Denver Broncos. I will ask you this on a A+ to an F- scale. How do you grade this team tonight for you from the 8th spot?
Very excited with the team. I would give it an A-. I don't really think there's any holes that I have. Could there have been a pick or two that I would switch around and have changed up? Yes. But the quarterback position is obviously a question. I mean, if you're going to nitpick, if Tua stays healthy, this team could be, a force all season. If he doesn't, Jordan Love takes the next step, we still should be fine. Tight ends, not worried. Receivers, not worried at all. Running back position is stacked, especially at the top. It's a top heavy with Pollard and Gibbs. Pacheco, I think, was a good value where I got him. Achane is a guy that could help me win $1 million. Jerome Ford, if something happens, Nick Chubb is right there. So I have no real issues with this team at all. I'm really not excited about my kicker and defense, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and I'm a guy who waits on quarterbacks a ton, so I'm not going to criticize you for your quarterbacks at all. round 11, Tagovailoa, and then Jordan Love in round 16. That's fine. I think you're loaded at the running back and receiver position relative to the majority of the rest of the league. So I would go to battle with this team. Aiden, would you go to battle with this team?
I mean, absolutely. Although me and Turp always say the teams that Turp gives an A+, A- to never turn out great.
They suck. That's true of anybody. That's true.
I'm very conscious of this when I give grades now. I was thinking about giving it like a B, B+, just to keep
all
it
of a sudden, bulky on these live drafts we do with Turp, and all of a sudden it's why is Turp always given like D- and C+ to these things? It's all a superstition. No, I like this team. Turp, the only two picks I was in, but again, it's just relative to where they're falling. Don't love Burks or Brown, although Brown I always get intrigued by.
Brown is the one guy that if there was.
I go back to the 5 games without DeAndre Hopkins last year, granted with Kyler before Brown got hurt. He had double-digit targets in 4 of the 5 games, 3 touchdowns.
He gets peppered. It's the question of can the quarterbacks get him the ball?
Exactly. But yeah, Quentin Johnson was not high on the draft, but he's kind of growing on me just because, as you said, kind of buying.
I hated him coming in the draft too, but I love that offense. The Chargers are my number one Miami offensive last year type of situation this year.
Tua is consistently becoming my favorite pick, just because Bulky, I know you've discussed, I think, extensively how quarterbacks are getting pushed up, especially the elite ones. Tua, I think, has a genuine chance if he's just healthy. He'll be a top 5 quarterback.
No concussions. Where does he go?
I think
ahead of Lawrence.
Before Herbert, before Fields.
I don't think he goes ahead of Herbert. He does not go ahead of Fields.
Because you're implying that last year he didn't get all those concussions, and he probably would have kept up a bonkers pace. He would have been a top.
He would have been on a bonkers pace. I'll give you that, but I still don't think he goes above Herbert.
I would take
right after Herbert to me. Definitely not above Fields.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe now that I think about it, Aiden makes a good point. Maybe above Herbert.
We're living in a bizarre world. Like if it's I guess maybe what you're saying is also it's just like, let's say he was banged up last year, but there's no lingering concerns. I would say then probably it's right. I would say in that 5th round, maybe early 6th. If that's like because if you're saying no,
somewhere I wouldn't say early 6th, somewhere in the 6th round, because he go ahead of Lawrence, who went in the early 7th, and I think it's going on average in the early 7th, right? Has a 704 ADP, yeah.
I'm just a complete buyer on that offense, and you're almost rooting for the guy to stay healthy because it's not.
You never want to see that stuff because the next hit can be done.
So no, Tua is just my pick because you're getting a top 5 quarterback in my eyes consistently in double-digit rounds, and you're pairing him with Tyreek. You got A-Chain right before. That was probably one of my favorite picks. It's like a homer move in terms of guys that just I'm high on. That's the reason I love it. But that was my favorite pick of the draft based on the build.
Terp, now that you can drink in the entire draft, that your team is complete. Anything else standing out for you among the rest of the teams in this draft? I know. I think we can say John Terry has outed himself as Team 6 tonight. Kern Reeve came in. He was drafting tonight. I don't want to reveal where he was unless he wants to reveal it in the YouTube chat, but he just popped in and he drafted in this league tonight as well. Anything else standing out, picks, teams to you, Terp?
I like what Team 6 did. I definitely give him credit. I mean, I wanted Cooper Kupp. He's the guy that I wanted to fall to 8. Kind of figured he wasn't. I had 7 guys marked going into this, and I got one of them, so I was happy about it. He got a good value with Pitts. I mean, Madison's definitely something who's been moving up, boards. Montgomery, I mean, Addison, Moore, and Flowers, a little bit of a question, but those top 2 receivers that he has are going to be studs. Like what he did. Let's see who else.
I love.
I mean, the Mahomes pick for John Terry to fall into that, he probably didn't think that.
Like I said, I would have took him over Jahmyr Gibbs if he would have fell. I just felt like it would have been 2. You could definitely pair him with Tony or one of those other guys later. Mm-hmm. That would have made sense. He got good value there. Definitely, that's twice he got me. So he definitely did well there. Let's see. Team 1.
Kern has outed himself as Team 2. He was drafting from the 2nd spot. What do you make of the props team? Hurts and Richardson. Those were the pick. That was the combo we talked about. That
love Kern. Don't love his draft. I'm sorry. DeAndre Hopkins is such a question as number 1 receiver. Kid Arias Tony is a number 2 receiver. and Sky Moore is a number 3 receiver. I mean, you're betting on the Chiefs, but I don't know.
I'll tell you what I do like on this team. I think Josh Jacobs' value is being depressed, so I like him in the 211. I don't believe he sits out at any point this season.
I agree.
Like
none of these running backs are. They got no case to.
Right. Hurts and Goddard, I love that combo. I think when you do something like that, you do sacrifice a little bit as your number 1 receiver. I think Hopkins is going to be a borderline number 1 receiver wherever he signs this year. It is a little interesting to get Tony and Moore in the 7th and 10th round as your number 2 and number 3 receiver. Now, he already had, at the time he drafted Moore, he already had 4 running backs on his roster. And I think Pierce is underrated. If you look at some of the underlying numbers there, I think he could have another really good season in Houston, even if the team stinks to high heaven, which I think it will. And we talked up Antonio Gibson as well. So I think he
has 4 running backs he's going to start pretty much every week.
Yeah.
The receivers are just going to be the question is if one of those guys in Kansas City emerge, Hopkins, we think is going to land in New England, I think it could be a good spot.
Well, Maurice Jenkins, my buddy, who I talked to last year at the FFPC live events, he wants to know, does anyone think Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Hopkins will be playing for the New England Patriots this year?
No.
And I know they expressed, I think one of them expressed interest in playing with the other one. I think Hopkins, that'd be my guess where he ends up in New England. I don't know if Cook ends up there.
Not a Bill Belichick move, I would think.
No.
He's got rid of James Robinson.
It would be something that all the Ramondre love would just get tanked. But
yeah.
I would love it personally because all the Ramondre, drafters would be so scared of him, he would get pushed down a little bit to, a value where I would take him. But I'm not worried about wherever Dalvin Cook is. It'll be annoying, but
selfishly for both of them, I think there was all these rumors that maybe take a veteran contract, right? They're not going after money. They're going to try and go play for a contender.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the initial reports, right? Like a lot of Hopkins to the Chiefs buzz. He mentioned how he wants to play with a real quarterback. But the recent reports make it seem as they're just trying to get, rightfully so, I don't knock them, just as one more maybe big contract. So I think not Cook, but Hopkins seems like, and the Patriots seems like a fit Patriots with cap space. Patriots need a number 1 receiver. Bill Belichick and Hopkins raved about Belichick. It's just still weird that he's going back to Bill O'Brien, but if I'm reading the tea leaves, it seems as though Hopkins is going to be a Titan or a Patriot, which neither
Go
is.
to New England. Go to New England. Don't stay away from Treylon.
I don't. Yeah, this.
But we're talking about teams we liked. Team 4, very, very high on. I'm not a Bijan Robinson guy, so taking him 4 is whatever. But if you love him, take him. Nick Chubb, really solid pick there. Olave is a great value right there. I've seen him go in 2nd round in many drafts. Debo, I felt like was a good value there. Judy, a good value. I mean, he just scarfed up everything that was falling to him. DeAndre Swift, the upside of Dalvin Cook, if you see it, like Dobson, 2 upside quarterbacks with Daniel Jones and Geno Smith, tight ends that have upside with Kincaid and Higbee. To me, it might be my favorite team.
I do. In our last FantasyPros coverage, the hardware draft, I believe about 2 weeks ago now, ever since Billy Muzio brought a ton, great information. He was a guest on the live coverage, and he took Olave in the, I believe he was team 4 or team 3, and he took Olave in the 2nd.
Correct.
Since then, he makes a lot of great points about Olave's super high floor and incredibly high ceiling. So that 3-4 is, I think, a great value pick.
And for an opposing view on Chris Olave, check out DraftSharks.com. I know those guys are a little bit soured on not necessarily on Olave, what he's going to do this season, but the price you have to pay to get him.
Surprising.
And for more from Billy Muzio, watch the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show this Thursday evening at 7/6 Central. He will be my guest co-host on the FFPC social media channels for the full 2 hours. So it'll be great to talk with him as well. Guys, as we wrap up tonight's broadcast, anything else that the viewers should know about before we sign off?
We got, Balky, just tell them about, you talked about it. Thursday, we got a show. Friday, High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, plus with special live coverage. Sunday, a best ball tournament, and then next Tuesday.
I'll be drafting with Austin Martin on Sunday.
Okay.
We're doing a team together, so that'll be fun. And I think it's 9:30. We're going to be doing it, so that'll be a good time. He's one of the sharpest minds in the game right now.
Yep. And I think he's doing a series on Player Profiler as well, if I remember correctly.
He just did it. It's out now. Definitely.
Dynasty Startups, right? Okay, so the next live draft coverage we will have will be Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be a Fantasy Pros Championship draft. Myself and Farrell Elliott will have the live draft coverage on that, and then one of the drafters from that league will join us for roughly a half hour interview afterwards. So if you want to have your YouTube draft, your FFPC Fantasy Pros Championship draft streamed on YouTube, join 53903 on Friday night. We already got a few people signed up for it during the broadcast tonight. Aiden, you and Terp will go live Sunday night to cover Terp and Austin Martin's team. Remind me again, is that 7:30 Eastern on Sunday? 9:30 Eastern. So it's a late one on Sunday night. So make sure you're paying attention to that. But this is one of many Tuesday night drafts. We will have Fantasy Pros drafts, live coverage here on Tuesday nights. It will always be myself, Aiden, and Terp. At least two of us three will be covering these drafts going forward through June, July, and August to whet your appetites. And don't forget to join these drafts. I mean, you saw 12 teams, how they did it tonight. I think you could do better than them. MyFFPC.com. Sign up there. Your chance to win a $1 million grand prize, which is what all 12 of these teams are going to be going for this year. Of course, you have another chance to become an FFPC millionaire this season by the FFPC main event. Sign up for that at MyFFPC.com. $1 million grand prize there. The best ball tournament, $200,000 grand prize. The Superflex best ball tournament, $50,000 grand prize. Just $35 to enter that. And Dynasty startups going off each and every day. 1,300 plus leagues in the FFPC Dynasty lore, and not a single one has ever folded. So make sure you're signing up there. The draft started from $100 all the way up to $5,000. $5 FFPC best ball leagues as well. So if you just want to dip your toes in, make sure you're doing that as well. We will see you again on Thursday night for Billy Muzio and myself on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show. Follow Dave Terpoli on Twitter at Dave Terp. Follow Aiden LaCorey on Twitter at Aiden LaCorey. We will be back again. Guys, thanks so much. You did a great job tonight. Terp, congratulations on potentially $1 million winning draft tonight.
You never know.
You never know, indeed. All right, guys, be good. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Good one, bro.
We appreciate it. See you on Thursday, everybody.